If I could give you one piece of advice that would protect your dreams more than almost anything else, it would be this. Stop telling people what you're about to do. It sounds simple, maybe even too simple, but this single habit has quietly destroyed more ambitions than lack of money, lack of talent, or lack of opportunity ever could. Think about it for a moment. Why is it that some people seem to make extraordinary progress without anyone seeing it coming? One day they're invisible. Months later they return stronger, healthier, wealthier, and more confident. Everyone calls it an overnight success, but it wasn't overnight. It happened in silence. Now compare that to the person who announces every new goal. They tell everyone they're starting a business. They post about waking up at 5 in the morning. They promise this year will be different. They describe the books they're reading, the investments they're making, and the habits they're building. Then something strange happens. Weeks pass, months pass. Nothing changes. Why? Because talking about the journey can become a substitute for taking the journey. Your mind is an incredible machine, but it has one weakness that catches almost everyone. The moment people praise your plan, your brain experiences a small reward. It feels successful before success has actually arrived. Someone says, "That's an amazing idea." Another says, "I know you're going to make it." Suddenly, you feel accomplished. But what exactly have you accomplished? Nothing yet. You have received the emotional reward without earning the real reward, and that is dangerous. Imagine climbing a mountain. Now imagine that every 100 feet, someone hands you a trophy. Eventually you stop climbing. Why? Because your mind begins believing you've already won. Life works the same way. Every unnecessary conversation about your goals can quietly reduce the urgency to achieve them. Have you ever noticed that the loudest person in the room is rarely producing the most? They're busy explaining. Meanwhile, somewhere else, another person says almost nothing. They aren't trying to impress anyone. They're working every day, every week, every month, slowly building something no one can see. Success loves people like that, because success doesn't care about announcements. It only responds to action. There is a reason builders don't celebrate when the foundation is poured. They celebrate when the building stands. There is a reason farmers don't celebrate after planting seeds. They celebrate after the harvest. Nature teaches patience. Nature teaches silence. Nature reminds us that everything valuable grows underground before anyone can see it. Your dreams are no different. The early stages are fragile. They need protection, not attention. Imagine planting a tiny tree in your backyard. The first thing you do isn't invite the neighborhood to admire it. You protect it. You water it. You let the roots become strong, because you understand something important. A tree without deep roots cannot survive a strong wind. Dreams are exactly the same. Every opinion you invite too early becomes another storm your dream must survive. And not everyone offers sunshine. Some people offer doubt. Some offer jealousy. Others don't even realize they're discouraging you. They simply project their own fears onto your future. They say things like, "Are you sure? What if it doesn't work? That's risky. I wouldn't do that." They aren't describing your limits. They're describing theirs. But if you hear those voices often enough, you begin borrowing their fears. Without realizing it, you start shrinking your vision. Not because your dream became impossible, because someone else's imagination was too small. That's why silence matters. Silence isn't hiding. Silence is protecting. Protecting your focus. Protecting your confidence. Protecting your momentum. The strongest fire starts with one spark. If the wind hits it too early, it disappears. But give it time. Soon it becomes something no storm can easily extinguish. Most people misunderstand confidence. They think confident people constantly tell everyone what they're going to accomplish. Actually, deeply confident people often do the opposite. They don't need constant validation. They don't need applause before effort. They don't need permission. They trust themselves enough to let the results do the talking. Think about the greatest transformations you've ever witnessed. Maybe someone lost 100 pounds. Maybe someone built a successful company. Maybe someone completely changed their life. Chances are you didn't watch every step. You simply noticed the finished result. While everyone else was watching television, they were studying. While everyone else argued online, they were practicing. While everyone else complained, they were improving. Quietly. Consistency doesn't make headlines. It makes champions. Here's something most people never realize. Talking is easy because it creates the illusion of movement. Working is difficult because it demands real effort. One gives instant satisfaction. The other gives lasting success. Ask yourself something honestly. Have you ever spent an hour explaining your future instead of spending that same hour building it? Almost everyone has. That's not failure. It's human nature. But successful people learn to recognize the trap. They become careful with their words, not because they're secretive, because they understand energy. Every conversation costs attention. Every explanation requires mental effort. Every unnecessary opinion occupies space in your thinking. Eventually, you begin carrying everyone's expectations instead of your own vision. That's exhausting. Real progress feels different. It doesn't always look exciting. Most days it looks ordinary. Reading another chapter, making another phone call, practicing another hour, saving another dollar, learning another skill. Tiny actions, repeated consistently. Those actions rarely make exciting conversations, but they build extraordinary lives. Here's a question. What if your greatest breakthrough is waiting on the other side of silence? What if the less you explain, the more you accomplish? Because here's the truth. Very few people discover early enough. The world doesn't reward intentions. It rewards execution. And execution happens far away from the spotlight. The most powerful chapter of your life may begin the moment you stop announcing your plans and start letting your habits introduce you instead. The strange thing about success is that it almost never announces its arrival. It doesn't knock on your door and say, get ready. Your life is about to change. Instead, it disguises itself as ordinary work. It looks like another early morning, another quiet evening, another day when nobody notices what you're doing. And that's exactly why most people miss it. They become addicted to being seen instead of becoming valuable. Have you ever wondered why so many people quit just before something great happens? It's because they confuse attention with progress. When nobody claps, they assume they're failing. When nobody compliments them, they think they're invisible. When nobody notices their effort, they lose motivation. But here's the reality. The greatest seasons of growth usually happen when nobody is watching. Think about a sculptor standing in front of a massive block of stone. The first strike of the hammer changes almost nothing. The second strike looks exactly the same. So does the 10th. Even after 100 strikes, the stone may appear untouched. Then suddenly, one final strike. The stone cracks. People watching believe that the last strike created the breakthrough. They never saw the 99 strikes that came before it. Life works that way. Every quiet effort matters. Every unseen sacrifice matters. Every lonely hour matters. The breakthrough is simply the moment the world finally notices what discipline has been building all along. That is why silence is so powerful. Silence keeps you connected to the process instead of the applause. The problem with constantly telling people your plans is that you slowly become more interested in their reactions than your own actions. You begin asking questions that don't help you. What do they think? Do they believe in me? Are they impressed? Those questions never build success. The better questions are much simpler. What did I improve today? What did I learn? What can I do better tomorrow? Those are the questions that quietly change lives. There is another danger that almost nobody talks about. Success attracts opinions long before it attracts results. The moment people know your goal, many of them suddenly become experts. They'll tell you why it won't work. They'll explain why someone else already tried. They'll remind you how difficult the journey will be. Some even sound convincing, not because they know your future, because they're speaking from their own past. Never allow someone else's disappointment to become your destination. People often mistake experience for truth. Just because something didn't work for them doesn't mean it won't work for you. Different people have different levels of commitment, different habits, different patience, different standards. The outcome is rarely determined by the dream. It's determined by the person pursuing it. Imagine two people receiving the exact same opportunity. One talks about it for 6 months. The other works on it for 6 months. Who do you think will be further ahead? The answer is obvious. Yet every single day, thousands of people choose conversation over commitment. Words are comfortable. Work is uncomfortable. And growth almost always hides inside discomfort. There was once a young man who wanted to become financially independent before the age of 30. He couldn't stop talking about it. Every dinner conversation became a speech about future success. Every friend knew his plans. Every family gathering turned into another explanation of what he was about to build. Years passed. His plans became more detailed. His results stayed exactly the same. One day he met an older businessman who listened carefully without interrupting. When the young man finished describing his incredible future, the older man smiled and asked one question. When do you actually have time to build all these dreams? The young man looked confused. The older man continued, "You've become very skilled at describing success. Now become skilled at earning it." That sentence changed everything. The young man stopped making announcements. He stopped seeking approval. He stopped explaining every move. Instead, he started working quietly. 1 year later, people thought he had become lucky. Luck had nothing to do with it. Silence did, because silence gave him something he had never protected before. Time. Instead of talking, he was learning. Instead of explaining, he was improving. Instead of convincing others, he was convincing himself through daily action. That is the real source of confidence. Confidence doesn't come from saying you'll do something. It comes from keeping promises to yourself. Every completed task becomes evidence. Every disciplined day becomes proof. Every challenge overcome whispers something powerful into your mind. You can trust yourself. And once you trust yourself, the opinions of others become much quieter. Most people are waiting until they feel confident before they begin. Successful people begin, and confidence catches up. There is an important difference. Action creates belief, not the other way around. Think back to when you first learned to ride a bicycle. You didn't gain confidence by talking about riding. You gained confidence by falling, getting up, trying again. Eventually, balance became natural. Success follows the same pattern. Nobody starts as an expert. Nobody begins without fear. The people you admire simply became comfortable being uncomfortable. They understood something most people never learn. Embarrassment lasts a moment. Regret can last a lifetime. That's why they moved. Even when people doubted them. Even when progress seemed invisible. Even when the results were slow. Because they knew something extraordinary was happening beneath the surface. Progress often hides before it appears. Look at bamboo. For years it appears to barely grow. Someone unfamiliar with it might think nothing is happening. But underneath the ground, an enormous root system is spreading. Then one season arrives, and it shoots upward faster than anyone expected. People call it sudden growth. Nature calls it preparation. Your life has seasons too. Some seasons are for planting. Some are for learning. Some are for struggling. Some are for harvesting. The mistake many people make is wanting harvest during planting season. They want recognition before mastery. They want rewards before discipline. They want outcomes without becoming the kind of person capable of sustaining those outcomes. Life doesn't work that way. First, you become, then you receive. The invisible work always comes before the visible reward. That's why your daily habits matter so much. Every decision either strengthens your future or weakens it. Every excuse either builds a prison or opens a door. Every hour either moves you closer or farther away from the life you say you want. No one else makes those choices. You do. Every single day. Here's another question. If nobody ever knew what you were working toward, would you still work just as hard? If the answer is yes, you're becoming unstoppable. Because your motivation no longer depends on attention. It depends on purpose. Purpose survives difficult days. Purpose keeps moving when excitement disappears. Purpose continues after motivation goes home. That is the difference between temporary effort and lasting discipline. And discipline has an incredible habit. It compounds. Just like money grows through consistent investment, character grows through consistent choices. One disciplined decision may not change your life today, but 1,000 disciplined decisions absolutely will. Most people underestimate small improvements because they expect dramatic change overnight. But life rarely changes overnight. It changes one decision at a time, one habit at a time, one quiet victory at a time. And before you realize it, you're no longer chasing the person you wanted to become. You have become that person. But there is one final obstacle that stops many people before they ever reach that point. It isn't failure. It isn't fear. It isn't even lack of opportunity. It's something far more dangerous. It's the hidden addiction to proving everyone wrong. And that addiction can quietly destroy everything you've worked to build. The desire to prove people wrong feels powerful. At first, it seems like the perfect source of motivation. Someone doubts you, laughs at your dream, tells you that you're wasting your time, and suddenly you feel a fire inside. You promise yourself that one day they'll regret underestimating you. That fire can help you start, but it cannot carry you for the rest of the journey. Because if your entire life is built around proving someone else wrong, then they still control your direction. Read that again. The moment your happiness depends on another person's opinion, you've handed them the steering wheel of your life. Real freedom begins when you stop asking, how can I impress them? And start asking, How can I become better than I was yesterday? That question changes everything. Imagine two runners standing at the starting line. The first runner spends the entire race looking sideways. He's watching everyone else. He's worried about who's catching up. He's constantly comparing his pace. The second runner never looks sideways. His eyes stay fixed on the finish line. Who has the better chance of winning? The answer is obvious. Yet millions of people live like the first runner every single day. They compare their income, their house, their career, their body, their followers, their success. They measure their lives against people they barely know. And while they're busy comparing, life quietly passes by. Comparison is one of the fastest ways to lose focus. The moment you begin measuring your progress against someone else's chapter, you forget that every person is living a different story. Some people start earlier. Some people start later. Some have more resources. Some begin with nothing. The race has never been against them. It has always been against the person you were yesterday. That is the only competition that matters. There is a story about a craftsman who built beautiful furniture by hand. People traveled from different cities just to buy his work. One day, someone asked him why he never advertised. The craftsman smiled and replied, "If my work is excellent, people will find me." At first, that answer sounds old-fashioned. But think about it. Excellence has a way of introducing itself. People notice consistency. People remember quality. People trust results. You don't have to shout when your work speaks clearly. Now, does that mean you should never promote your work? Of course not. There is a difference between promoting finished work and announcing unfinished dreams. One creates opportunities. The other creates distractions. Finish the work first, then let the world see it. Too many people reverse the order. They seek attention before achievement, recognition before preparation, visibility before value. But value always comes first. If you spend enough time becoming valuable, opportunities begin looking for you. People often ask, "What's the secret to success?" They expect some complicated answer, maybe a hidden strategy, maybe a special technique. But the truth is surprisingly simple. Do the things most people refuse to do. Read when others scroll. Learn when others complain. Practice when others procrastinate. Save when others spend. Listen when others argue. Build when others boast. Those choices don't feel dramatic, but repeated over years, they create extraordinary lives. Success rarely comes from one giant decision. It usually comes from thousands of small ones. Think of a single drop of water. By itself, it seems powerless. But over time, water can carve through solid rock. Not because it's stronger, because it is consistent. Your habits are exactly like that. A single workout doesn't transform your body. A single book doesn't transform your mind. A single investment doesn't create wealth. But repeat those actions long enough, and the impossible begins looking ordinary. Consistency performs miracles that motivation never can. Motivation is emotional. Discipline is dependable. Motivation says, "I'll do it when I feel ready." Discipline says, "I'll do it whether I feel ready or not." Which one do you think produces greater results over 10 years? Life rewards the dependable, not the occasional. There will be mornings when you don't feel inspired. Work anyway. There will be evenings when you're tired. Keep going. There will be days when nobody believes in you. Believe in yourself. There will be seasons when progress is invisible. Trust the process. Remember the seed beneath the soil. Nobody applauds the seed. Nobody takes pictures of the roots. Yet everything above the ground depends on everything happening below it. Your character is your root system. Nobody sees it, but everyone eventually experiences its strength. Character is built through private decisions. The decision to keep your word. The decision to stay honest when dishonesty seems easier. The decision to continue after failure. The decision to remain humble after success. Those moments define your future far more than public victories ever will. Here's something many people never realize. Success magnifies who you already are. Money doesn't create character. It reveals it. Power doesn't create integrity. It tests it. Recognition doesn't create confidence. It exposes whether your confidence was real or borrowed. That's why becoming the right person is always more important than chasing the right opportunity. Because opportunities come and go. Character stays. Imagine receiving everything you've ever wanted. The business succeeds. The income grows. The recognition arrives. Now imagine you haven't developed discipline. You haven't developed patience. You haven't developed wisdom. How long will that success last? Probably not very long. The hardest part isn't reaching the top. The hardest part is staying there. And staying there requires becoming someone capable of carrying success without letting success carry you away. Humility becomes your greatest protection. The higher you climb, the more important humility becomes. The tree with the most fruit bends the lowest. There's wisdom in that image. People who truly grow become calmer. They become better listeners. They become less interested in proving themselves. They no longer need to dominate every conversation. They don't need to remind everyone of their accomplishments. Why? Because secure people don't advertise their value. They simply live it. Insecure people seek attention. Secure people seek purpose. That's a massive difference. Here's a challenge. For the next 30 days, stop announcing every plan. Stop explaining every dream. Stop seeking permission. Instead, wake up. Do the work. Improve quietly. Repeat. Notice what happens. You'll have more energy, more clarity, less pressure, more focus, because your attention will stay where it belongs, on the work, not the audience. One day, people will begin asking different questions. Instead of hearing about your plans, they'll ask how you achieved your results. That's a much better conversation, because results create credibility. Promises create expectations. One inspires respect. The other often creates pressure. Always choose respect. There is an old saying that actions speak louder than words. Most people hear it. Very few people live it. Imagine if every promise you made to yourself became non-negotiable. Imagine if every small commitment was treated with the same importance as a major one. Imagine if your daily habits became so strong that success was no longer a matter of chance. How different would your life look 1 year from now? 5 years? 10 years? The answer isn't hidden. It's waiting inside the decisions you make today. Because every great life is built twice. First in the mind, then in reality. But there is one final lesson that separates those who simply dream from those who create a legacy. It has nothing to do with talent, nothing to do with luck, nothing to do with timing. It has everything to do with the person you choose to become when no one is watching. And that is where the greatest transformation truly begins. The person you become when no one is watching is the person who eventually changes everything. Not the version of you that smiles for a photograph. Not the version that speaks confidently in front of others. The real version. The one who makes decisions in complete silence. The one who chooses between comfort and growth when nobody would ever know the difference. That is the person who creates your future. Life has an interesting way of testing people. The tests rarely arrive with warning. They don't announce themselves. They appear in ordinary moments. You wake up before the alarm rings. Do you get out of bed? Or do you tell yourself, just 5 more minutes? You promised yourself you would read every day. Do you open the book? Or do you open your phone? You said you would save money. Do you invest in your future? Or do you buy something you don't really need? These moments seem small, almost invisible, but your future is hidden inside them. People often wait for one big opportunity that will change everything. One promotion, one business idea, one lucky break, one life-changing connection. But life rarely changes because of one giant event. It changes because of hundreds of tiny decisions that nobody celebrates. Imagine building a brick wall. One brick doesn't look impressive. Neither does the second, or the 10th. But after enough days of placing one brick exactly where it belongs, a wall begins to appear. Eventually, people admire the wall. They don't admire the thousands of careful decisions that created it. Your life is built the same way. Every disciplined choice is another brick. Every promise you keep is another brick. Every excuse you refuse is another brick. One day you wake up and realize you've built something remarkable. Not because of one extraordinary effort, because of extraordinary consistency. There is another lesson that successful people quietly understand. They don't fall in love with the destination. They fall in love with becoming the kind of person who can reach it. Think about that. Anyone can dream about success. Very few people dream about discipline. Anyone can imagine standing at the finish line. Very few people imagine enjoying the long road that leads there. But the road is where life happens. The journey shapes you. The struggle teaches you. The setbacks strengthen you. The failures educate you. Without those experiences, success would be impossible to sustain. Many people fear failure, but failure isn't the real enemy. The real enemy is refusing to learn. Every mistake contains information. Every disappointment contains instruction. Every obstacle asks one simple question. Will you grow or will you quit? That question appears again and again throughout life. Some people answer it with excuses. Others answer it with action. The difference between those two responses becomes enormous over time. There is a reason rivers eventually reach the ocean. Not because they are the strongest, because they keep moving. When a river meets a rock, it doesn't stop. It flows around it. When it finds a mountain, it doesn't argue. It finds another path. Persistence always finds a way. Life rewards people who keep moving forward. Not perfectly, not quickly, but consistently. Sometimes you'll move 1 mile. Sometimes you'll move 1 inch. The distance doesn't matter nearly as much as the direction. As long as you're moving toward your purpose, you're winning. Here's something worth remembering. Your greatest competition has never been another person. It's the version of yourself that chooses comfort over courage. Every morning, those two versions wake up together. One says, take it easy. The other says, keep your promise. One says, wait until tomorrow. The other says, start today. One looks for reasons. The other looks for results. Which version grows stronger depends entirely on which one you feed. Character works exactly like a muscle. Use it and it grows. Ignore it and it weakens. The same is true for discipline. The first time you choose discipline, it feels difficult. The 100th time, it becomes part of who you are. Eventually, you stop forcing yourself to do the right things. You simply become the kind of person who does them. That is true transformation. Transformation isn't changing what you do for a few weeks. Transformation is changing who you are for the rest of your life. And once that happens, success becomes a natural consequence. Not because life suddenly becomes easier, because you've become stronger. Never forget this. People see the reward. They rarely see the price. They see the healthy body. They don't see the workouts that happened when motivation disappeared. They see the successful business. They don't see the lonely nights spent solving problems. They see the confident speaker. They don't see the years spent learning, practicing, failing, and improving. Every meaningful achievement has an invisible story behind it. That story is written in silence. This brings us back to where we began. Never tell people what you do before you've done it. Protect your vision while it's growing. Guard your focus like it's your greatest investment. Allow your habits to become stronger than your words. There is something incredibly powerful about walking into a room where nobody expects anything from you, then letting your results speak before you ever say a sentence. That kind of confidence cannot be borrowed. It cannot be purchased. It must be earned. Quietly, patiently, day after day, year after year. Imagine yourself 5 years from today. Which version of your life would make you proud? The one where you spent years talking about possibilities, or the one where you quietly built them? The answer already lives inside you. You don't need another person's permission. You don't need everyone to understand your dream. You don't need applause to begin. You need one decision. The decision to stop seeking attention and start seeking excellence. The decision to trade noise for focus. The decision to value progress more than praise. The decision to become so committed to your purpose that distractions no longer control your direction. One day, someone will ask how your life changed. They'll expect you to describe one magical moment, one incredible opportunity, one lucky break. Smile, because you'll know the truth. Your life didn't change because of one moment. It changed because of thousands of moments. The mornings you chose discipline, the evenings you chose learning, the conversations you never had, the dreams you quietly protected, the promises you kept, the excuses you refused, the habits you repeated. Those moments became your future. And when success finally arrived, it wasn't a surprise. It was the natural result of becoming the person capable of creating it. So from this day forward, let your actions become your language. Let your consistency become your reputation. Let your humility become your strength. Let your discipline become your advantage. And let your results tell the story that words never could. The world is full of people making announcements. Become the person making progress. Because in the end, people may forget what you said. They may forget what you planned, but they will never forget what you built. Now close this video. Protect your vision. Stay focused and get back to work. Your future is waiting, and it doesn't need another announcement. It needs your next action.